It's almost Halloween and everyone is talking about horror. Heck, I just released a video on the contrast between horror movies and video games yesterday, and you should go check it out. I think it's a pretty good video. But recently, Matt Draper just created the massive One Horrifying Moment collaboration. It's like the One Excellent Scene collab or the One Marvelous Scene collab from, a few months back or last year, but it's scary. It's all about a chilling scene that has stuck with you and what makes that scene so great and so horrifying, It's in the name. And while normally I would talk about Resident Evil, because I am a huge Resident Evil fan and also kind of Resident Evil shill at this point, I basically already did this when talking about the Resident Evil 3 remake opening a few months back and how that, how I believe that sets the tone for the game and is a great example. So if you want to go check that out, should be popping up right here. Or it'll be in the description as well. But I wanted to talk about New Ground, and so I'm going to talk about one of the best horror movies, in my opinion, and the best scene from that movie. And that would be John Carpenter's The Thing, and my one horrifying scene is the final scene from The Thing. Now, if you haven't seen The Thing, get out. I'm just kidding. But it's one of the best horror movies of all time. It's got some great performances, smart and likable characters. It's not, the typical slasher. It's like where you're upset by them making their actions. They know what they're doing in this. They are scientists after all. A unique setting and premise, as well as insanely good effects. Because this was the peak, I would say, of, physical effects, like physical makeup and all that stuff. And also it's got the late, great Wilford Brimley. So what more do you need? I'm not going to go summarize the movie point by point here because A, that takes too much time, and B, you should go watch it on your own first. But there are a few things you need to know just so that the scene makes sense. First, the characters are isolated in a science base in the Arctic, and communication gets cut early, so they're entirely on their own. Second, the Thing is a monster/alien, but it can nearly perfectly replicate anybody, but throughout the movie, they find out different ways how to figure out if you are or aren't a thing. A really easy one is if it's halfway through transforming, but also it has defensive mechanisms. And if you test blood, if you put a hot metal into the blood and there's no reaction, you're human. If it reacts, it's a thing. So there you go. And third and last, in the moments before this scene, the ones directly leading up, Childs, who's this character, he had disappeared, and McReady, played by Kurt Russell, this character, McReady blew up the base. And so it's, this is them reuniting after the destruction causing that. Now, let's get on to that one horrifying moment. Mac is lying among the wreckage with the fire of the base blazing all around him, and Childs returns from wherever he disappeared to before. Both are suspicious of each other, but with the temperature dropping, the fire eventually going to go out, the two of them being the only ones left, they decide to just let nature take its course. Childs sits down, the two of them talk for a bit, on if they think they can survive, and they think it's a no, and Mac is like, maybe it's a good thing we don't survive, that we don't want this getting out any further. And then Mac hands Childs a drink, and we get a zoomed out shot of the completely destroyed base, and, the movie ends there. This scene is it's so good because of how everything the movie is sewn into its fiber and into the viewer throughout is both completely thrown out the window while also held tighter than ever before. The wariness and the constant nature of being on edge, it's all gone here. As the viewer, we know that Mac isn't the thing. We've been watching him the whole time. But we don't know if Childs is, and neither does Mac, and that's what makes this so compelling. It doesn't really even matter, though, because the fire is going to die sooner or later, and either both characters will freeze if they're both humans, or just Mac will freeze and the Thing will just hibernate until a rescue team arrives. So it's a desolate and dreary situation either way. And in a moment of existential horror and acceptance of that death, the two drink together. It's a great scene that perfectly caps off this incredible and genius movie, and it's also one that sparked a ton of debate. Some people believe that Childs is the Thing because his breath can't be seen in the cold air. Meanwhile, Mac is a personal fog machine over here. Others believe that the drink Mac handed to Childs was lighter fluid or gasoline in the bottle in an effort to kill the Thing from the inside, just in case. But in the end, we don't know. We always end up back at square one with this movie, filled with paranoia and lack of knowledge. It's a consistent theme because even when they figure out something, such as, the blood testing thing, it gets destroyed, or there's a false positive or false negative, that's the entire cycle of this movie, is ending back up at square one. And in the end, the characters don't really know what's happening, with the Thing. It's such a being outside of their experience that it's baffling to them. And even with, these are scientists. These aren't your stereotypical, horny teenagers in a Friday the 13th movie. They know what they're doing. They are trying their best. They use, everything possible, but in the end, they just can't do it. And yeah, it's so good. But Carpenter says he knows what's really happening at the end of the movie, but it's not likely he'll ever tell. And I honestly prefer it that way. Sometimes we need a little bit of subtlety and mystery in our movies, and it's up to our own interpretation. So yeah, that's all it really comes down to, is the viewer's interpretation on their own. Thank you for watching this video, and thank you, Matt, for making this, One Horrifying Moment project. I love these big YouTuber collaboration things. It helps small channels like me get started. So the bigger guys helping me out, that's always great. It's just so interesting seeing the wide breadth of different, what's chosen by people when we're given all creative freedom. I've seen a fair amount of comics and stuff, as well as movies, obviously, and even shows like the Batman animated series was one of them. And so I'm gonna leave the playlist down below. Obviously, go check out these videos because they're super cool. They're also pretty concise. So if you don't have too much time, but it's great. And so thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you want to see more like it. And let me know in the comments what you think was happening in that final scene. I'd love to hear everybody's interpretations. And until next time, goodbye.